As usual, let's first start off with the deck. The deck's length is 35.5 inches and the width at its widest part is 10 inches in width. The board's total weight is 39 pounds and its max load is 330 pounds. The deck is made up of multi-layered composite, including carbon fiber and fiberglass. Now, just like the Propel Pivot GT, they are utilizing the BVR design, which is bad vibe reduction. But what the Propel GT doesn't have is the actual flex you can feel while riding. So as you can see, it has a very good flex to it. So between its size, its flex, and its 3mm foam grip tape, this can really handle terrible roads. Now, since it's so solid and built so well, yet has a perfect amount of flex to it, not only does it give you maximum comfort, but it also offers very good stability. I never understood why some people think flex decks are not stable at higher speeds. When you ride over imperfections in the road at higher speeds, the flex will help absorb that energy rather than throw you off like a rigid carbon fiber would. Now, the overall platform of this board, including its drop down, flex, and concave, is what really attracted me to this board at EskateCon. As soon as I stepped on it, I immediately knew that the concave was perfect, the flex was perfect, wasn't too wide, wasn't too narrow, and was very well built. I don't really like decks with the slants on the ends like this, but again, when I stepped on this, it totally changed my mind. But the ends of the boards that are slanted up have its benefits. Not only does the concave have your feet locked in when carving, but that back slant is great for launching. As for the wheels, the Ruckus is utilizing 7-inch Sun-made tires with the metal Bravura hubs. Now, Sun-made tires usually have a bad name, and that's mainly because of the 6-inch usually come unbalanced. With these particular 7-inch, these are my third time giving a 7-inch Sun-made tires from a production company, and all the 7-inch Sun-made tires I've ever had actually had perfect balance. It's always the 6 inches that are very off balance. So if they're not off balance, the Sun-made tires are actually very good. As you can see, they got plenty of grip, they rip it in the dirt, and they're even good off-roading. So if you're doubting the board because of the wheels, don't. The 7-inch Sunmates are solid. As for the trucks, now this is where the board really turns it up when it comes to customization. There's over 25 ways to adjust these trucks, including 18 hydraulic dampening settings. The Ruckus has the most advanced and customizable skateboard trucks ever made. They also have 3 different types of durometers and 2 different types of bushings. So like I always say, the more options, the better. Now here's a closer look at the ADT system.
With this machine we can simulate the kind of consistent force that occurs when a skater is tilting their deck to turn. When the ADT hydraulics are set to a low gear, like gear 1 through 3, the hydraulics will allow for fast deck tilt changes. This is because at slower riding speeds fast deck tilting is required for not only turning but deep carving. However, as the ADT hydraulics are increased to higher settings for higher speeds, the hydraulics slow down and smooth out the deck tilt change from hydraulic pressure. This is because at higher speeds dramatic deck tilt angles are less desirable. It can also be seen that even at the maximum hydraulic setting of 8 to 9, the dampener will always still allow the full tilt angle and the full turning radius. It is just that it will occur slower and more smoothly and require more consistent force to ultimately achieve. This is different from simply using a firm bushing or tightening down a bushing, because those ideas do indict turn radius.
My current truck setup. With the rear, I have the black hard, I believe it's 90A in the middle, and then these are also bushings as well, and these are 90A as well. I did play with the red, and it just wouldn't move. I consider myself a pretty good carver, and I couldn't actually get the board actually wiggle at all. It was kind of crazy. Now these threads that are showing right in here, you can see there's probably about 8 or 9 threads showing, so it's more on the tight side, not loose. And again, that's the rear. And the ADT setup is 5 in the rear. Front, again, another hard middle, which is their steering bushing. And then their coils, again, black, which is again hard. And I have, I think, 7 or 8 threads showing here. Not loose at all, but a little bit more on the tight side. And that's a setup that I'm most comfortable with, because I played around with the grays in here. Never put the grays in here, but even with the grays in here, I didn't like it at all. The level up front of the ADT is level 2, and the back is level 5.
So when they first sent me the board, since I am a smaller rider, they assumed I wanted softer. So as you can see in the middle, turning bushing is gray, which is way too soft for me, so I had to switch it to all black. After tightening up the rebound coils and switching to all black turning bushings, I finally got the board dialed in just right for me. I have the ADT at level 5 in the back and 2 up front. The assistance from the ADT system, it kind of pushes me back when I go all the way deep into a carve, but on a very fluid-like vibe. If it was a basic traditional channel truck, I would have that kind of gap empty feeling. With this, it gives this kind of smooth pushback, little bit of resistance kind of feel that allows you to be super fluid with your carves. It's kind of like double kingpin, but no mush, if that makes any sense. It's like once you get used to this feeling, it kind of is this kind of assistance type of device that helps you out while carving. Now, when this board first got released, the main marketing slogan of this board was the end of speed wobbles, the beginning of bliss. Now, I think the bliss is all there, but speed wobbles has always been a skill issue. I don't think there will ever be a machine, or should be a machine, intervene with you riding an electric skateboard. There's a lot of ways to maneuver and pivot your board, and a machine can't really know how exactly you're gonna move the board at whatever speed. So my point is, I don't like the ADT system with higher speeds. I personally don't think it feels stable at 25 plus miles per hour. Under 25 miles per hour, the board is one of the most fun carvy boards I've ever ridden. Between that flex, that concave, and its fluid-like carves, there's 100% nothing like this on the market. But I personally don't want assistance when it comes to higher speeds. The ADT system does it when I don't want it to, thus making it unstable riding for me. Again, plus 25 miles per hour. The easiest way I can explain it, if you're riding in a straight line and you turn around to look at a car behind you, that small little shift in your body, that little momentum, the trucks will want to shift back, and I don't like it. Predictability is the most important thing to me as a rider, because it's up to me to be in full control, not help/assistance from a device. If you put an ADT system in high settings, it definitely decreases your turning radius a lot. If you have it very low, it'll be extremely carvy. Too carvy in my opinion. So you really have to play with it and tinker around and find your sweet spot. Now I want to make something very clear. This is all my personal input and my particular riding style. Just because I don't like something doesn't mean it won't work for you. For instance, channel trucks in general, which these are channel trucks technically, lots of people love them and I don't like them at all. Another example is those big boards with a giant hump in the middle, like the version 1 Lorentz and all the Cali boards. I know plenty of people that love those decks and I simply don't like them. Again, just because I don't like something doesn't mean it won't be right for you, but I always will give you my honest input on my experience with all these boards. As for the motors, the Ruckus is utilizing 6.3, 7.4, 170 kV dual belt drive motors. As for the ESC, the Ruckus is utilizing its customized FOC 3.0 pushing 150 amps. The ESC also has 3 QR codes, one for the website, for their Facebook group, and their YouTube channel. The ESC also has these air cooling vents that keep the board running efficiently, and it's also easy to disassemble just in case you have to replace the ESC. I also wanted to point out that the ESC is not twitchy like the first batches of the Pivot GTs. This is nice and smooth. As for the remote, finally a company has made a better lingy remote. It obviously has all the data you need, including your miles, your trip, your top speed, what gear you're in, your brakes, and of course your battery meters. What's also cool is the amount of times you click the top button. That puts you in whatever speed mode you want, and each speed mode is color coordinated. Then if you hold down both buttons, you have a back screen menu which gives you this VESC-like option that gives you the capability of dialing in the board the way you want it to perform. What's also cool about the remote, it controls the rear taillight/brake light, so you can be seen at nighttime from the rear, and also other riders will know that you are braking. I also like that you don't have to buy a rear shred light now, because this comes standard with the board. It also has the kick auto start feature, which is very convenient. Now I wanted to mention some things I don't like. Now please keep in mind, this is my opinion and my personal preference. You may not agree. First off, I think this wheelbase is a little bit too short. This is the type of board that needs to be a little bit more on a larger wheelbase side. I compare it to my actual DIY, which is a very small DIY, and my wheelbase is still a little bit bigger than this board. For such a carvy board, I think even a smaller wheelbase makes it a little bit too much. So something else I don't really love about this board is carrying it. Now when you carry it, obviously it has an external battery pack, meaning it's not embedded inside the deck.
So when you have that, usually it's not that comfortable on the edge right here when you're carrying this heavy board. With this one, it's a little bit more uncomfortable than others because it's so thin right here and the enclosure stops right here. It's not a smooth over edge over here like carbon fiber boards when it's nice and comfortable on your hand right here. So it's not easy to carry. It's very uncomfortable on your hand right here, and the weight is very abnormal. There's a lot of weight up front, there's a lot of weight in the rear, there's a lot going on, so it's not easy to carry. However, the bash guard definitely helps you roll it around, but sometimes we just have to pick up the board. But picking it up by the bash guard definitely helps.
Now, what I don't really like about channel trucks in general is how they're mounted on a slanted angle in general. This gives kind of an awkward feel to the board's maneuverability traits. It's also pretty tough to change the middle bushings because you got to dismount the entire truck, and the way you hold the board makes it hard to just keep everything together and just simply change a bushing. It's very unlike a traditional or double kingpin or reverse kingpin. So if you want to change the bushings, it's a little bit more difficult. So I'm going to do my best to try and explain how I feel when it comes to channel trucks versus other trucks. So as I showed before, they're mounted on an angle. I think right off the bat, channel trucks are very strange that way. Now, when you're mounted on an angle and I'm turning or carving, I can feel the pivoting points being very abnormal underneath my feet, given they're all the way on the edge and they're on a tilt. When you go to traditional kingpin trucks or reverse kingpin trucks, or even double kingpin trucks, they're all mounted flat. As you can see, this is all flat mounted. All right, mounted flat, traditional mounted flat, reverse mounted flat, double kingpin mounted flat. So, say traditional, for instance, when I'm carving or turning, I can feel that pivoting point and maneuverability underneath my feet and like my crotch area, which is a good thing. When I hop on channel trucks, I feel like that pivoting kind of feels more out. So it's going out that way and it's going out that way. I don't feel it underneath my crotch and feet area. Again, when I hop on traditional, reverse, or double kingpin trucks, I feel it all underneath me, and that's what I want. I want maximum control. So with the channel trucks being mounted on an angle, it feels very abnormal, and the ADT is just another thing to interfere. I don't want any interference when I am carving and riding. I want 1000% full control. I know it might sound a little goofy, but I'm trying my best to try to explain how I feel. I'm not really one with the words. Now again, with all of this is just my personal opinion and my style and my preference. You might not feel the same. When it comes to the ADT system, I think it's a great piece of technology, but it's just not for me. I just don't want a piece of equipment trying to get in the way and trying to help me when I need full control. Now, what I also don't like is how the motor mounts sit pretty dang low. Now, normally this doesn't really bother me, but this is such a beautiful piece of equipment, I don't want to get scratched up. But since these motor mounts are so large, I think it would be a bad idea to run 6-inch all-terrains because that metal round motor mount sits so low to the ground. Now, since these motor mounts are so large, that means you cannot utilize street wheel pulleys. So no, you cannot utilize street wheels on the Ruckus. Things worth mentioning. First off, the unboxing of this board was awesome. It was packed up very, very well. So props to Propel for packing this up so nicely. In the box, you have your 4.5 amp charger. You also have smaller pulleys, so if you want higher speed, you can utilize the 55T pulleys. You also have extra hardware and bolts, as well as extra bearings and spacers. And they also give you this front bash guard, which is very useful because you don't want to damage the front ADT system. Now, I think it looks much cleaner without the bash guard, but utilizing the bash guard obviously will protect it because we're always running over things in the road. Also, the axles on the trucks are 12 millimeters, so they are very durable, very strong, and they also give you this tool in case you need to change a tire or tubes. Another thing worth mentioning, the battery on the remote is awesome. When I first got the board, I spent a week riding it and I still never needed to charge the remote. By the end of the first week of riding, I still had 2 bars left. As for the bushings, the current boards are now shipping with black all around, and I believe you also get gray inside the box. I believe red doesn't really come with it unless you ask them. So if you are an early buyer, you don't have the black bushings and you want them, just send them a message and they'll send them to you. Okay guys, here we go. Propel Ruckus, giant hill test, same hill we always use. Mode 4, full battery.
I'll do my best. Let's do it. Yeah, letting off. Feel weird. Yeah, I keep letting off. It easily climbs it, easily, but I just don't feel right going fast on this board. I just don't. Above 25, I'm just very uncomfortable. It was easily doing it, but I'll check the rider app anyway. Yeah, 24.7. Like I've been saying, 25 miles per hour, I feel very strange and just out of place on this board above 25 miles per hour. Okay, acceleration test. This is the 68T, not the 55T. Out of the box comes 68. Sitting inside the box, you have 55 for higher speed. So this is 68T, mode 4, full battery. All right, 1, 2, 3, go. Nice! Woof! Nice, just like the pivot. Very responsive, very aggressive, and like the first batch of the pivots, it doesn't have that twitchiness to it. So performance is definitely there. And with all the remote settings, you can turn it down if you want, if you have a more moderate rider, or if you just want to have a better, easier learning curve. Again, you can turn down the adjustments in the remote. So as I stated with the trucks, I'm not going to do a top speed test. I simply don't feel safe above 25 miles per hour with this board. Okay, let's do a brake test at 15 miles per hour. You have 4 brake modes to choose from. I'm in brake mode 3. 1, 2, 3, brake. Nice. Good, good. Aggressive, yet not crazy that it'll throw you off, and definitely not too soft.
As for the battery, the Ruckus is utilizing a 12S 4P Samsung 50S 864 watt-hour battery. The PCB integrated battery packs get rid of unnecessary wiring, it's safer, and it also helps with the flexiness of the deck. The Ruckus is also utilizing a chassis armored enclosure design. This protects the battery compartment and it increases the innovation for long-term functionality. It's also made out of CNC for better structural integrity, but not only is it protecting the battery, but as well as provide a nice space for personalization. As for range, I'm a 155-pound rider and the weather was about 78 degrees Fahrenheit. Now I never went above 25 miles per hour, so obviously when you ride more on the mellow side, you will get more range, especially if you're lighter weight and the weather is actually nice out and not cold. I got a total of 30.8 miles of range utilizing the Ruckus 12S 4P setup. This just goes to show you that if you don't ride super hard and fast, you can get very good range out of a 12S 4P setup. Final thoughts. Now, first things first, I want to give a big shout out to Propel because their customer service is unmatched. If you go on their Facebook group page, if some customer has any issues at all, 9 out of 10 times Propel answers within the same day. Most e-skate companies will never do that. I also want to give a lot of respect to them for constantly innovating. Look how far along they've come from their first endeavor. Between Propel and Acetec, they're setting a huge trend for maximum value, great customer service, and good quality. Now again, just because these particular truck designs aren't for me, that doesn't mean that you won't love it. I will say this, if you enjoy carving a lot just like me, but you don't quite like double kingpin, this might be a very good choice for you. It's more sturdy and durable than double kingpin, and yet still has that fluidic kind of vibe when carving. I think Propel is going to be around for a long time in the PV community because they're constantly innovating, they're constantly wanting to do better, and they listen to the riders. I will say this, like I mentioned earlier, I do love this deck. It really just straps me in. It has a perfect amount of flex, and it really allows me to dig in my carves really aggressively, and it's a lot of fun. Even taking this thing out on dirt and off-roading was a blast. I remember when the Endeavor first came out, I thought I would never like it, and finally at eSkateCon, I rode through newest one, and I absolutely loved it. My point is, always have an open mind with different kind of setups, and Propel might just be the best company to try all these different types of setups that they have in their eSkate lineup. Use discount code eSkateUnity for any of their boards. Thanks for watching, guys.